Well, the one thing about Garrett is he's there every day.
Every day.
That's where that quote comes from. So,
Garrett Bowles.
where do we come from, Bloom?
Our mothers.
Yeah, you ever get that? You got that question yet?
The stork. I try to answer every question honestly, which is really probably not smart.
No, it's fine. My opinion, different show. Maybe not enough time to do this, but like with my kids, I answered everything honestly, even if it was something that would be, above their head or whatever. I was like, okay, this is what happens, because kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah, and you have 2 daughters too, and daughters are more mature than fathers by what? 11, 10, 11?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Anyway, how about this? Hey, look at that. Weekly preview. Okay. Enough. All right. 3, 2, 1. Well, Thursday night is a good one, nay, great one, as it's Chiefs and it's Chargers, and this one is in L.A., Bloom. So Chiefs on the road, Chiefs winning with defense, Chiefs still trying to make McCall Hardman a thing, and Tyreek Hill a little bit banged up. Travis Kelce tears up the Chiefs, but Pat Mahomes actually doesn't as much as you would think, and then you add in this year where they're not really doing that anymore. And you're like, okay, you might actually have better options than Pat Mahomes at the quarterback position. I wrote about this yesterday on the Newswire. Pat Mahomes has averaged 229.5 yards per game over the last 4 games against the Chargers. He's got 7 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in those games. So I'm not saying the Chargers have him figured out, Bloom, because who really does with Pat Mahomes? And he can go off at any moment. But like I said, you might have a different option at quarterback if you've got Pat Mahomes this week, and that is weird.
It is weird. Taysom Hill, Justin Fields, Matthew Stafford. Those are some names that come to mind that I would have to think about it. Jalen Hurts, I'd have to think about it. But let's not let that overshadow how great this game is going to be. And we have a sprint, really. How many teams are still alive in the AFC? 10, 11, 12? And it's really going to come down to how these teams play over the last 4 weeks. Now, Kansas City's safe. They're going to be in probably in any event, but certainly this is something that could jockey them. They're still in contention for the number 1 seed, as is the Chargers. So this is a game with a lot on the line. Kansas City, you're going to probably see a lot of the running game against the Chargers. Why not? What they've been doing, and look, Patrick Mahomes has been a mediocre fantasy quarterback, except when he's facing the Raiders. Who's the opponent this week? Not the Raiders. So that's why you're looking at Clyde Edwards-Helaire as maybe a better play here. You're looking at Darrell Williams as what the heck flex. And see in the background, let's just talk about the elephant. It's not even an elephant, man. It's like a brontosaurus in the room, right? Brachiosaurus. Wasn't that the largest dinosaur? We shall see. Now, this game is on Thursday, so there's less clock to go, but we'll see who's available for all of these games by the time we get there. But this just makes sense as a running game. You're going to still play Hill. You're still going to play Kelce, who's in a little bit of a slump, even though Mahomes is a little more difficult of a call depending on who else you have. So we would look at this game like the cover pane there with it's Herbert, it's Mahomes, but maybe it's the defenses. Kansas City's certainly been a defense front forward team. And Justin Herbert, he has to show that he can do something against the hottest defense in the league because some of his big games. Okay, he did it against the Giants. Can you do it against the Chiefs?
Yeah, can you do it against that Chiefs defense now that they've changed? And Chris Jones, hello. But Travis Kelce, by the way, Bloom, and I wrote about this yesterday on our Newswire too, averaged 6.5 receptions and 77.5 yards and 0.5 touchdowns the last 4 games. People actually don't like numbers, Bloom, that don't match up the film. But I will remind people of that because it does match the film with Kelce. He's the one guy out of that offense that does a little bit more in this matchup, a little bit more for the Chargers and a little bit more from, I don't know, Austin Eckler. Now, Keenan Allen was activated from the COOF list on Tuesday. That's good. Austin Eckler, no practice for Jared Cook. Did not participate from Mike Williams. This was on Monday. Estimation, because they don't hold a practice. I think those are such dumb reports, but this is what we got. Austin Eckler with that ankle is the big concern. So Allen back, Eckler maybe not. Concerns for fantasy GMs and Chargers fans in this one.
Concerns for Eckler. You're still going to play Eckler, but it wouldn't be surprising to see him aggravate his ankle injury again Justin Jackson should probably be on rosters. A trade here from the Koof list. Chris Jones, who you mentioned, on the Koof list for Kansas City, but Rashawn Slater on the Koof list for the Chargers. So a net zero effect there. And then with Keenan Allen back, he was hotter before he went on the Koof list, so he's definitely in. With Mike Williams, just because of the chance for the big play, I think you probably are going to go with Mike Williams, but he's more of a wide receiver 3 flex, even a what the heck flex, depending on what we hear about his condition going into this one. And again, Cease, fantasy football, week 15. There's a big argument in the fantasy football Twitter. I have to keep you updated on the stuff, Cease, about whether it's okay for teams that aren't in the playoffs to make waiver wire moves.
Well, that should already be in your league constitution.
Exactly.
Like, if you haven't
put it
figured
in your
that
rules.
out, like, hey, welcome, newbie. Welcome to fantasy football. This is what old men do when we just sit around and be like, those youngsters.
Yeah. Oh, we figured that out back in 1997.
Exactly. What was that time when we figured that out, Bloom? Because, it is a great debate.
It is. It's a great debate who's going to win this game. I think it when we get to this part of the season, it comes down to some amazing individual plays. Also got to have a hat tip here for Melvin Ingram while we're talking about the Kansas City defense. He has been one of the keys to that turnaround. See, the Steelers used to get those players, not lose those players.
The Steelers used to be good, buddy.
Yeah, used to be beautiful.
It used to be a thing. How about this thing? And the Vegas Raiders against Cleveland. Oof. This one can be a little briefer than our Thursday night game, Bloom. Vegas Raiders side first. Hunter Renfrow.
Right.
Sure. Like, Darren Waller's doing some stuff. What did they say? Like, he's riding the exercise bike, but he's not yet ready to run or stuff like that. So, okay. Hunter Renfrow and littering. And what are you looking at on the Raiders side?
Yeah, that's it. And this is going to be a game without much offense. It's going to be played in Cleveland December weather. Looks like wintry mix, some wind, some cold. This game was played in a similar conditions, maybe windier conditions. Last year was 16-6 Raiders. Hunter Renfrow, well, if you can't have Cooper Kupp, you could have Hunter Renfrow looking like a league winner right now. Josh Jacobs obviously is going to get as much as he can handle. I think in that game, neither team topped 25 pass attempts. That's what I would look at here. The Raiders barely have a pulse, but if they can win this game, they can stay alive. Cleveland has a little more of a pulse. They need to win this game, but I have no idea who's going to be playing for them come Saturday. Not Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday games, 2 games on Saturday, and one kind of a stinker and one kind of interesting. Everyone's worried about the Coof in the NFL, at least they should be. I know policies are changing around the league. Baker, the baby maker, on the Coof list and tested positive. He'll have to produce 2 negative tests before Saturday in order to play. Who else is on here? Malik McDowell, right?
Most of the offensive line, Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, John Johnson, Troy Hill.
Okay.
And it's Wednesday.
Yeah. And this is Wednesday when that happens. So Kareem Hunt's down. So Nick Chubb and the Wildcat? I don't know.
Yeah. Why not? Nick Chubb, it's going to be a lot of Nick Chubb and Dearness Johnson. It's just really a question. I mean, you're going to play Chubb if they can sustain some drives. And the good news here, if there's any good news, is the Browns have one of the steepest, one of the shallowest drop-offs from starter to backup. Some might say it isn't even a drop-off, although Baker Mayfield was playing pretty well last week until he took a hard hit, had a rougher second half. So it's not necessarily a disaster for this team to lose their starting quarterback. It's a system-driven offense. So I think it is going to be up to Nick Chubb, really, to put this team on his back with Dearness Johnson maybe also spelling him. And you would think, even with a lot of the starting offensive linemen, including Wyatt Teller, who's been a revelation since they got him from the Bills, that they're all trained well in the system, in the running game. You know, that's what it is to be a Cleveland Browns offensive lineman, I think. So maybe they might be able to be okay. We'll see about Donovan Peoples-Jones. Maybe he's a true what-the-heck flex here. Maybe just takes one play action pass from Case Keenum. But, yeah, this game, the complexion has changed. I sure hope the other Saturday game, Saturday night, the complexion has not changed, Cease, because there was a time Patriots-Colts meant the best matchup in football.
That meant a time where you and I stopped in
Baton Rouge
because we couldn't miss that game.
Yeah.
We're on our way to the Senior Bowl. I think I flew into Houston that year, and we jumped in Filetti's new Mazda 3 back then. and all piled in, and then we decided let's stop. Or was Folletti with us that time?
No, that was the first. That was the year that the Patriots beat the Chargers, the Marty Schottenheimer Chargers, to get that far. Yeah, so it was actually 2006, 2007.
That was the year LaDainian didn't show up in the playoffs. Oh, wait. No, that was all of them. Anyway. Oh, man. I made What's-His-Face mad from NFL Network one time at the Super Bowl having dinner because it was before Terrell Davis was in the Hall of Fame. I was like, hey, dude had 1,000 yards in the playoffs in 1 year. In 1 year. Like, you know, this, you got to give the guy some credit. It wasn't 1 year. It was 2 years combined. Anyway. Why can't I remember that guy's name? Anyway, here's, again, more old men takes, Bloom. But New England, right?
Just an hour of Cecil and Sig Singer. Like, who was that? I can't remember. What year was that?
It was, I know, it was Adam Rank. It was Adam Rank. Because he loved LaDainian. I was like, well, at least he doesn't take off time like LaDainian in the playoffs.
Ooh.
Just truth. Nice guy. LT's a great guy. But, like, you got to show up in the playoffs, man. Anyway, this feels like a playoff game, doesn't it, Bloom?
Yeah.
Huge implications, and especially following Thursday with huge implications with the Chiefs and the Chargers. This one, Patriots, Colts, it's going to be a great one. And on the New England side, well, what is Belichick going to try to pick on? We know he's going to try to run the ball. We know that the receivers aren't necessarily anyone you take a turn with, and Hunter Henry can be disappointing for you. So how will the Patriots best attack the Colts on Saturday?
I think you run the ball. I think it's Ramondre Stevenson and maybe Damian Harris. We'll see Harris back at practice in limited fashion. Colts defense has been forcing takeaways for the offenses they're facing an alarming rate. But I think you're going to see Mac Jones be safe with the ball as long as the game script allows him to. So we're not going to look to anybody in this passing game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, a field position game, a don't-make-any-mistakes game. Of course, this used to be about Brady versus Manning. First time these two teams have played without Brady or Manning in the game. 8 straight, by the way. That's the other side of this. 8 straight the Patriots have won over the Colts. So you know that there's certainly an advantage here in terms of coaching with Bill Belichick, with Josh McDaniels. And it may well come down to on the Colts side. You know, this is a big, big test. For Carson Wentz, and this is a big test for this team. And really, it's perfect, Cease, because the Colts are maybe the quintessential teams this year that may not make the playoffs if they slip up. But if they do make the playoffs, they can absolutely run the table. They can win the Super Bowl. They have probably the player who is threatening now to break, I think it's 8 years that a quarterback has won the MVP in a row. If it's not a quarterback this year, it should be Jonathan Taylor. And it's a test for him. It's a test for Wentz. It's
why
a
would
test
it not
for Frank
be
Reich.
Taylor? Like, why would it not be Taylor?
Because running backs don't matter. I don't know. But so a lot of great storylines here. If the Colts can win this one on Saturday night, they should feel like they can beat anybody. They should feel like that anyway. But it'll just be a refresher. They're coming off of their bye. Speaking of refreshed, it's Carson Wentz. If there's anything looming over this team, Cease, it's the Carson Wentz narrative. This would be a great game for him to really rid us of that like a cloud of gnats, and we can look forward maybe to a postseason where Carson Wentz says, hey, let's see what I can do.
Yeah, and Belichick against Carson Wentz. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take the New England side on this one, but for fantasy purposes, you go, okay, let's stack the line and stuff the run. Can they do it against Jonathan Taylor? Yeah. I'll vote no. With the intent to run the ball with that offensive line, with Taylor's natural ability, like, yeah, you're going to try to do it. But if he gets, here's the problem with stacking the line, Bloom. Once a guy breaks through the first wave, there's no wave behind. There's no way behind that. It's not like you're playing a normal defense where someone can come up and fill the hole. No, if you get past that first line, you're gone. And Taylor could rip off one of the, he could, let's say first half 15 carries for 25 yards. Oh my God, they're bottling up Jonathan Taylor. He'll finish with 125 yards, because it takes one run with that guy and he's got the talent to do that. And then, let Carson Wentz beat you. How would that happen, Bloom? If that is the Patriots' way and Belichick's way to get after Indianapolis, what does that mean for Wentz, Pittman, and everyone else?
Right. Pittman, I think, is still a little bit dicey here because I think Pittman is the player that the Patriots are probably talking about. You got J.C. Jackson. You got good cornerback play for the Patriots. But I think we can look back to the Colts-Bucks game a few weeks ago when the Bucks and their stout front were on the other side of the line of scrimmage. The Colts passed and passed well. Carson Wentz had a terrific game. And then in the fourth quarter, that's whenever it was Jonathan Taylor time. So I think you're right also in this case that the Patriots, they don't have that kind of front that the Bucks have. So maybe it's just Jonathan Taylor time from the beginning, and eventually those cracks are going to accumulate and the dam will break, and it could be another Jonathan Taylor fantastic, amazing game because the whole team is rested. So I actually have some faith in the Colts here. I still think the passing game is going to be on the lesser side as far as the size of the total pie. You've got guys like T.Y. Hilton, Jack Doyle, some old hands that can help here. This is another one, Cease, like the Chargers and the Chiefs. Maybe it's best to not have fantasy interests in this game because it could be more of a low-scoring field position. Don't make any mistakes. Who can force a turnover? Who can make a big special teams play? Boy, that sounds like the kind of game the Patriots win every time, right? Yes. So, just be entertained by this game, and it may not be a fantasy bonanza unless you have Jonathan Taylor and maybe Ramondre Stevenson.
That's right. Great duel coming up with the Rams and Buffalo. And how could we best describe this, Bloom? If you were to write in the guide section, used to be a TV guide, more old man talk, but like if you were to write the log line for this game, it's like two teams meet that aren't what they were, but might be able to retain and regain their former glory or perceived glory. I don't know. It's Rams and it's Bills. And with both of these teams, you're like, you were supposed to be something, and you're kind of not. What about this week? This one's in Buffalo. I'll check NFLweather.com while you proselytize, Bloom. But let's talk about the Rams side first and how they'll go get after Buffalo.
Yeah, actually, I think it's the Panthers and the Bills, but it's another team.
Sorry, Panthers and Bills. Oh, my God.
Been. That's all right. It's the Sean McDermott Bowl. Because
that's what I get for writing LAR instead of my L look like my C look like an L. So that's Carolina and Buffalo.
Our audience is great because
guess what's getting edited out
3 times a year. Cecil, I'll transpose the home and away team, and someone will be very nice to say by the way, that game's not in Pittsburgh, it's in Minnesota. How long does Newton stay in? Certainly, this is an environment. Again, it's December. It's Buffalo. That Cam Newton seems like he should be a cold weather quarterback, but he may not even last the first half, just like last week. Chuba Hubbard, you would think again, it's Buffalo, so you want to force Buffalo to stop the run. Chuba Hubbard still is just a what the heck flex type. Panthers, remember when there was hope? We might see Sam Darnold again. Wouldn't that be the ultimate coda that we see Sam Darnold again before the end of the year? The quarterback that clearly they had sworn off after they replaced him with the quarterback they had clearly sworn off. It's not a good thing when you're saying these things about a franchise, and the Panthers have a lot of questions to answer, and they all basically start at the top.
They do start at the top, but we'll see where the questions for Buffalo are. I said I'd look at NFLweather.com. And then we look at Josh Allen's boot.com. I don't know if they have one, but if they did, 26 and overcast, 13 mile an hour winds from the west-northwest. And that is your weather update for Buffalo. But this is what we have to do this time of year. In Buffalo, well, they have to make some changes as well, especially if Josh Allen can't quite run like we normally expect.
Yeah, he's still going to be a great fantasy play. I'm not going to back away from him. Carolina is a team that's kind of folding up shop at this point. And with Emmanuel Sanders unlikely to play, he didn't practice yet, that makes it easier to put Cole Beasley in your lineup, to put Gabriel Davis in your lineup. Yes, you're definitely putting Dawson Knox in your lineup. Obviously, you're going to have Stephon Diggs and probably none of the running backs. If you had to play one, it would be Devin Singletary. He seems to be the only one that the coaches haven't totally soured on. This is a must-win game. The Buffalo Bills fans are going to sour. Well, maybe not. They love their team unconditionally. But certainly those of us that have more peripheral rooting interest in the Bills and really want to see them make that push this year will be sour if they can't beat the Panthers. Anything sour in your coffee there, Cease?
No, I need to put a little pepper in, though. It's cold. That's a pro tip. That's a little cowpoke trick from the cow trail.
Cowboy coffee is good stuff.
It is good stuff. And if you ever need that extra little warmth, put some pepper in your coffee, and it warms you up. Although, as Anthony says, I might need some whiskey in my coffee because now I'm paranoid about my handwriting. Like, make sure it's Buffalo, make sure it's Arizona and Detroit, make sure it's the next game. And the next game is Arizona and Detroit. And how does Arizona respond, Bloom? That's the main thing, right? How do they respond from this game against the Rams? There's my Rams take, right? And how do they bounce back this time on the road? Oh, you get to face Detroit.
Yeah.
So everything is going to be working because that's what happens. And you can run the hell out of the ball. Now, James Conner had the ankle thing, MRI scheduled. I don't know if any results have been revealed yet, Bloom. DeAndre Hopkins, MRI as well. Same thing, leg injury. So you think, okay, man alive, what, Chase Edmonds going to give it a go? Because you can run so much against Detroit, and you don't need to do anything else. But you can do whatever you want. So what does that mean for Arizona, especially with Conner and Hopkins a little banged up?
Yeah, I think that Edmonds is coming back just in time. If Connor's active, you still play him because he's going to get the touchdowns, but maybe this could be a big workload for Edmonds right away. Kyler Murray should be better against the Lions defense, right? DeAndre Hopkins, you're probably still going to play him if he's active, but you're wary, and maybe this gives you a little more nudge to play Zach Ertz if you have a streaming tight end approach and you have him in another equal option. AJ Green, now granted, Murray's not going to throw the ball 49 times again, but A.J. Green looks like he can get targets at the same rate as DeAndre Hopkins, especially if Hopkins is 100% and Christian Kirk. So this offense should be able to move the ball with ease. So, although that loss, we don't go back over the Monday night game, Cease, but that could be the difference between the NFC championship game being in Lambeau versus it being in Glendale, which are two totally different outlooks, and all because of a game the Cardinals should have been able to win. By the way, not a lot of history. I mean, so many divisional matchups, some of these we just had. I will say this. This is one of the oldest rivalries in NFL history, Cease. It goes back to the Chicago Cardinals and the Portsmouth Spartans. You know, the Detroit Lions were not an original franchise. They started out in Portsmouth, Ohio, down there by the Ohio River. And since then, became, like 5 years later, became the Detroit Lions. That's how far this matchup goes back.
Wow. I used to have a Canton Bulldogs jersey, Bloom,
Nice.
and then I gained a bunch of weight and I gave it away. And now I'm like, damn.
You can wear it now.
I'm going through all my old clothes. I'm like shopping now. Of course, I'm addicted to shopping, so that's not a bad thing. I'm addicted to avoiding talking about the Lions. I don't know.
Craig Reynolds, Netflix.
Yeah,
Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill. Can we really trust that? Really? I mean, maybe with all the coof going around, you're going to have to. Like, again, Bloom, you think you know what's going to happen, and then you're starting Craig Reynolds in the fantasy playoffs.
Start Netflix and chill, I should have said. And the Arizona run defense is one you want to pick on also. So it could be there. I mean, CC had decent numbers against Denver last week, and Denver controlled that game. We're back. So Amon-Ra St. Brown also, the game's indoors. If they're behind in the second half, he could rack up some catches for you. This is the kind of points you take. It doesn't have to be pretty, Cease. It doesn't have to be. There's nothing in fantasy football that means the points get multiplied if they're in service of a win or a good team or a good offense. So take your Amon-Ra St. Brown receptions and smile.
And like it. Take your Jets and Miami. As I quickly double check, Jets and Miami. Oh, my handwriting's awful. Jets and Miami, Bloom. Hey, everybody. And it's the Jets side of things, which, okay. Is Michael Carter going to be back? We're recording Wednesday morning. If you're listening to this, if you're watching, thank you. If you're listening, thank you as well. But we're recording Wednesday morning, so we're waiting to see status on injured guys or guys coming back from injury. But against Miami, does it even really matter?
Yeah. It matters for if you have the Miami defense, I guess. If Michael Carter's back, he's still just a what the heck flex in the first week back. And there's nobody else we're going to play in this offense. Nobody. Elijah Moore's out. There's nobody. Braxton Berrios is a better play than Jamison Louder for Crowder. So it's nobody. And Robert Saleh, we're going to give this team a mulligan for this year and start really evaluating their rebuild next year. The Miami rebuild, Cease, we thought was headed for another rebuild at one point this season. Yeah. Now it might be headed for the playoffs.
Didn't they set up for Tua for 2 years, Bloom? Or is my memory hazy?
This was the year, yeah. Yeah.
They set that up for Tua, and then they almost abandoned it because of, and listen, Deshaun Watson would be an upgrade, of course. But like, seriously, you spend all that time, you plan, you get the guy you want, and then you're like, nah.
Right.
Nah, let's get him out. Get him out of here. But Tua's been playing well. Jalen Waddle's been playing well. Everybody, who's going to be a running back for Miami? I mean,
Exactly.
Again, Wednesday morning, maybe Myles Gaskin gets the back-to-back tests that are negative in 24-hour period, or each in 24-hour, whatever the number is. Salvin Ahmed, same thing. Phillip Lindsay just was put on the COOF list on Monday. Right. So he is a little bit further down the possibility of playing. They had their bye. So coming out of their bye, they should clown hammer the Jets. So they should do that anyway, Bloom. But with who and how?
Yeah, with the passing game, with Tua, who's been highly, highly accurate, with Jalen Waddle, and see, so we could be talking about it like this: Cooper Kupp, Hunter Renfrow, Jalen Waddle, right? All those short passes, racking up catches, getting yards after the catch. Defense can't really account for him. So you saw what Gardner Minshew was able to do against this Jets defense. I think Tua should be able to do similar things, and maybe throwing downfield to Mike Gesicki. Remember how the Jets look like Lilliputians against Dallas Goedert? Mike Gesicki isn't quite as dominant as a runner, catch point dominant player, not as stout or sturdy as Goddard, but certainly a player who can make some noise down there. Maybe even Devontae Parker, who's back. So I think this is going to be a passing game first kind of game, and it should be the way Tua's playing. Also, the depleted backfield. If Malcolm Brown's back, maybe he's a what the heck flex because he can get goal line carries. And see, now that you're in a football shape, you're fighting weight. You have some experience, so you keep that phone close in case Miami calls.
Yeah, in case they call, I could go out there and give it a go.
Yeah, against the Jets, you're like, well, no, I'm not going to play against NFL. Oh, it's the Jets. Okay.
Oh, yes, please.
Sign me up.
I'm good to go. Good to go. Now we finish with NFC East talk. So buckle up if you are a fan in the NFC East, and yes, that means Dallas and New York Giants. That is up next. So Dallas side first, Bloom. And when we see Tony Pollard, they're optimistic about him. Much better chance to play than he did last week. That's according to Mike McCarthy. Okay, fine. That's good. Jerry is somewhere still talking about they're going to keep Ezekiel Elliott at the normal workload. It doesn't make sense, but this is Jerry. So you know that Zeke's going to get his. Hopefully Pollard's back. You could throw him in as a what the heck flex. Against the Giants, lots of things should work. Maybe not Zeke, but he'll get enough touches to be fantasy worthy to a certain level. Bloom, what is that?
Yeah, Dak Prescott did not look good last week against Washington, but it's the Giants. So Dak Prescott, I think you are trusting. I think you're trusting obviously CD Lamb, Amari Cooper, maybe even Michael Gallup. Dalton Schultz, not so much. Dalton Schultz seems to be the odd man out here. And Zeke, you got to play because of the touchdowns. It's just a game. This could be a classic Jerome Bettis plus kind of line for Zeke, right? So he's like 12 carries, 15 carries for 25 yards, but 2 or 3 touchdowns. Because that's what they do. They call Zeke's number when they get inside the 5. So you still like him this week, even though he's not the same. The Giants are the same, and that's not good. And hopefully some of the things about that team will not be the same next year because I feel sad for the Giants fans.
I knew it was bad when I showed up at the Combine and Joe Judge wouldn't call Saquon Barkley by his name.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is this clown?
Right.
Oh, yeah, he's a former Patriots, blah, blah, blah.
The Patriot way.
Can we just put that to sleep? All right, if your name's not Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel didn't coach under, because I made that mistake once and somebody's like, he didn't coach under Belichick. Yes. Okay, good. That's why Mike Vrabel's good. Because all the other jokers that come from underneath Belichick, and I like Brian Flores, so maybe I shouldn't say slappies or jokers, but even with Brian Flores, it was a little rough there, Bloom. So it's a little rough with Joe Judge. Do we have to talk about him? I mean, no. I guess.
Play Barkley. Play the Dallas defense. Play Barkley. We don't have to talk about that. We have to at least acknowledge there's a fantasy side here, and Barkley's the only tough decision. He wasn't at practice today. Again, look.
Tony on the COOF list.
Right, and there's more players being added for the Giants, and this isn't over this week. We're going to get more tomorrow, Friday. It's a whole new ball game for fantasy, and really, it's being agile. It's making sure your bench is robust, not just full of upside plays and backup running backs. Now, though, in this case, this would be a good time to grab Devontae Booker if you have Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, Booker's been about as efficient as Barkley this year per touch. And that just shows you where Barkley is, where the Giants are. And it's the Cowboys, really, that are the springboard team as we do our tour through the NFC East.
The tour continues with the Washington football team against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Washington football team side, you feel good. You feel the fight, and then you see Taylor Heineke out there getting the hell beat out of him.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, well, that's not going to work out, no matter how much fight that you have. So, what is it, the Cam Sims week? Antonio Gibson, right?
Right.
We're looking at that, and we're going to watch Heineke, man. Dude's tough.
Yeah, he's going to play.
Is he going to play? He's going to play. Okay, and is Terry McLaurin not going to get blanked this week?
Right.
That was a bit of a shocker last week out.
Yeah, he has to get out of the concussion protocol. At least I have to remember to not say concussion every time that word comes up. Heineke's going to play. He's expected to play, but he's still he's not going to at least face the Dallas pass rush this week. He's got that going for him, but he may not have Terry McLaurin. Antonio Gibson, I'm not even really sure if they trust Antonio Gibson. Honestly, last week was Jonathan Williams getting the touchdown. Philadelphia was a team that we thought you can pass on pretty easily, but you got to have someone to pass on. And by the way, their offensive line also has some issues with player availability. These teams are going to play again in 2 weeks also. So this is all strange. Look, I just think the Washington offense is probably going to be pretty minimal in this game. And I also think Washington, a weary Washington team, is going to have trouble slowing down the Philadelphia running game.
Philadelphia running game now featuring.
We'll let you know when we figure it out.
Philadelphia running game now featuring. All right, Jalen Hurts is going to keep his job. Nick Sirianni said that, of course. Jordan Howard should be able to play after the Week 14 bye. Well, it's after the Week 14 bye. So what about now? And who is it going to be? And how's it going to look? You know, we saw Gardner Minshew out there making Dallas Goedert a star. He already was, but at least he featured him as his whoopee, as a security blanket. Well, what about now with Hurts returning, Howard potentially returning again? Wednesday morning, Bloom. We're just kind of waiting. We know they're going to run. We know they want to run. We know they can run. With who and how much?
Yeah, and talking to Ray GQ on the couch yesterday, fantastic couch session, he said, why not both? Why not both Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard? I would think that Philadelphia is going to get to run the ball a lot in this game. They're going to control the clock. They're going to control the line of scrimmage. So we'll wait and see about practice availability, but you want to get your Eagles running back in, even if it's Boston Scott. And then there's Jalen Hurts, who you're probably playing. You just need a few big plays, either as a passer or a runner, and maybe scoring a touchdown or two as a runner. So, remember there was that one game when they racked up so many yards and points on the ground that they didn't need Jalen Hurts. It was actually a down fantasy game for him, but his floor is about 15 points, which I think you can tolerate that. You can stomach that in Week 15. You can probably stomach playing Dallas Goedert because it's tight end and it's rough out there and it only takes one. And you might Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts is going to throw 15 passes in this game. Is one of them going to be for a long touchdown to Devontae Smith? Maybe. I mean, I trust Smith as a player. Hurts is playing better as a passer, kinda. Coming out of the bye, they're going to face this team twice in the next 3 weeks, so they should have a good game plan. And maybe this is an Eagles team that can be frisky if they get into the playoffs with the running game, with Hurts, with big play Slay, and some pretty good players on defense on that defensive line.
And that is a wrap for part 1 of the Week 15 preview. Everyone, make sure to do those YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and, well, you can comment about how awful my handwriting is. Bloom, I feel like I need to go run some laps.
Handwriting
after my gaff
is worse. That's okay. That's why I type and just put it on my screen on a document. If it's not based on my handwriting, that's a good thing.
Cursive, right? I'm cursing cursive today, but... Oh, well. All right. That is a wrap, everyone. We appreciate you all for watching. We appreciate you all for listening. YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid, and go get your Footballguys gear at our Footballguys shop now, including a Sorry Joe t-shirt. I am going to go run laps in a Sorry Joe t-shirt because, some days are better than others, Bloom. But we will all wish you well. Thank you very much for watching and listening. He's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. We are the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.